Welcome back to the Wheelers Podcast. As you can see, my guy has returned, Dr. A.E. Yes, indeed. We back in this thing, man. Yeah. I'm happy to see you. See, I'm all smiles, right? Yeah, I'm happy to have you back. I'm happy to have you back. So check it out, guys. Tonight, we got the show. We got the show that you want to know about. This is the desire to benefit from a live show. See, the thing is, Dr. AE and I talk about an awful lot of things, and you've seen us spar, and you've seen us keep our composure and just have a wonderful relationship with, intellect and perspectives, methodologies, ideologies, perspectives, all rooted in what we would call trying to come up with a damn solution. So, we always talk, man. We make sure we stay in front of each other, you know, understanding how we get somewhere with all of this type of rigmarole and all of these events that go on in the world. So we think about what the one people love to do. It's not what they love to do, it's what they desire to do. They desire to benefit from a lie, meaning making up stories, falsifying, aggrandizing, elaborating on their specialties or what they are so, what they want you to believe. But at the end of the day, we got whip moments. We're gonna try something new tonight. Me and Dr. AE are gonna both elaborate on the whip moments. And we're gonna do it in a great way. So y'all stay tuned. This is gonna be a good one. We back and I feel like my partner's back with me, man. I'm excited. So check it out. Absolutely. Um, the desire to benefit from a live show. The first whip moment is the need to downtrot other people. And we're gonna rock with this, but AE is gonna take the first punches at this because he's back and I know he ready to slang them out there. So first whip moment is the need to downtrot other people. AE, take that one away. You got it.
Well, there's usually, most people think that it stems from, well, let's say this. As I've always said, I'm going to go with my regular mantra, right? Which is there's the theoretical and the practical, right?
Mm-hmm.
The theoretical is it's the psychological game that they play in that is their own inadequacy in which they need to feel better than someone else in order to have their own self-esteem and their own self-worth validated, right?
Yes, indeed.
And then the practical is that it feeds that because they actually most likely either envy or need that person or both. They need them, thus they envy them because they need them. So another and in order to, psychologically accept that, they have to then tell themselves that they're better, right? And I'm sorry, but I always use the same one, but it is. They're the best case to use,
Yeah.
The world is 2/3 color. 1/3 is white. Yet they have convinced themselves and the world that they are the norm, that the absence of color is the norm.
The default.
And that people of color are the abnormal ones, right?
Right.
You
Yes.
see, and so that's the psychological, right? That they have to deal with the fact that they are actually the abnormal one. But instead of dealing with that issue, they'd rather switch it around and make it seem like people of color are the abnormal and that the absence of color is the norm. You see, so I not that's just an example, but I mean we've seen it throughout history being used, right? That and even the darker means the worse, and they get treated the worst in society. And we see it in all societies, even in blacks and in Hispanics. Both of them have this colorism. We have, thank goodness, we've progressed. We've progressed a lot past it. But I mean that there was a time when we truly struggled with that colorism, right? Um,
Those are facts.
we even treated family members differently, because of the hue of their skin, right?
Those are facts.
And so um, it's that whole idea, right? Psychologically, they're trying to compensate, and so in doing that, they create this hypocrisy, right? And so I think that's just the quickest example in terms of understanding, you know, both the theoretical and the practical, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
if we want to just stem on the practical, right? If we want to just look at the practical and a historical usage, of course, that's
Mhm.
enslavement, right? They needed people of darker skin who can actually work longer periods in the climate, right? And in and being able to sustain a standard of work that would sustain and push our entire economic society, right? So
Those are
now,
facts.
again, that that practical sense is you are the better worker, and because you are the better worker, though, I need to compensate psychologically, but I also need to be able to manipulate you into the best usage of your work where I can maximize your work,
Pause.
but I
Pause.
benefit the most.
Pause. 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 We're gonna pause right there because you made such a supremely great point that is actually utilized today, even in corporate America. We know right now that corporate America is built on those that uh, are prepared, they are smart, they are situated, they have a plan every day, they have a disciplinary act about themselves where they can organize and orchestrate how they need to. But they are the smallest percentile of corporate America. I would even call them the 5 percentile of corporate America, because if you look at how many jobs in corporate America that are ballooned in salary in every other aspect simply because of a few reasons. No one has a real job. Only a few get things done. So when you look at the explosion of the economic value of America, they didn't care to pay for something they felt they got for free.
Mm.
So when you don't pay for something, you send an invitation out to the globe because you've done it through propaganda and through action. And you also invited those of your liking to practice the same acts with the amazing people that you predicated your acts upon. So from that, we're gonna go because we don't move to the next what moment. It's gonna be too long of a show. So the next what moment we're gonna say, AE, we're gonna go with, you're gonna go first again. It's the dismissing of other groups of people. How globally do we tend to participate in dismissing of other groups of people? How often has that been done, and who was that done to first? Like you just expound.
Well, that's the thing about when you are, you know, when you are using an entire group of people for a specific purpose that benefits yourself again, right? You
Mhm.
marginalize them and you marginalize their efforts so that you can overshadow the fact of how important and dependent you are on them, right? Or you're trying to overshadow the uh, the importance of the positive that they bring, especially if it contradicts your actions and it puts you in the bad light, right?
Mm.
And I'm gonna give you a good example there again, because I have to go in history. That's who I am. When we look at the the fight against natives, right? We see all of this talk about Chief Joseph, Geronimo, Sitting Bull, and um, they're placed in the annals of history in a certain way, and they're even glorified to a certain extent, and they're highlighted. But then the most successful, right? The most successful one, Osceola, right? You barely get anything on, right? Osceola is almost like a fictitious character because Florida State uses him so much,
So is John Horse.
as their mascot, and the mascot of Osceola is pushed so much more than the true narrative of the person. Um, Osceola again almost becomes a
MLK.
fictitious character, even though he actually put up the largest fight, more than Geronimo, more than Chief Joseph, more
Anybody.
than City
And
Bull,
one.
and won. But here's the thing, right? It's because Osceola had this heritage that they don't want to bring to light, right? It's the fact that Osceola was a product of the true quote unquote melting pot, right? Half native, half black, and then with a white father. And you treated him such that he had to rebel to the point where he put up the largest fight, you know.
He went at
And
your ass
so
hard too. It wasn't no
you
games.
overshadow him because he doesn't fit that narrative of that Geronimo and Sitting Bull that you created of this native, right?
But he looked just
And,
like him.
and so that's the thing, right? He's almost now more of a fictitious character. So that goes back. I'm using Osceola as that example, right? That you would rather push these people into obscurity than bring them to the light and open up this larger discussion, right? Because that's what it's going to do, right? There's a
Yes, indeed.
larger discussion on um, that person and who they are and the culture that they bring, and the fact that they were doing something positive that counters what you were doing, and making you look more into a negative light, having a cast or shed more negative light on yourself. So you simply marginalize groups of people because you want to overshadow the truth in who they were, or the history and the relationship you had with them, right?
Okay. I'm gonna add. If you don't mind. Can I add?
No,
All right. That's just like me, right? On TikTok, I get called sub-Saharan. I was called a Zulu. I was called all kind of things. None of which I'm offended, by the way. Those are warriors. Those are beautiful people. Those are wonderful clans and tribes that exist throughout the world. So that lets you know that they got a whole way about them that I kind of envy Shaka Zulu. I love him. I think his story is amazing and beautiful, but he was fooled because he was tricked. But this power, his influence, the way he was able, his bravado, but he lost. See, in the Americas, yeah, they said we look like Africans, right?
Yeah.
I mean, through hue, yeah, but AE kind of showed you my whole damn rundown, and I don't have an African. Do you think I wish I did? Yes, you know, that would be great. That would be a completion of some kind. But see, sometimes you people make comments. I don't have Africans in my mother or father side. They're all black from here. I would love to say that that wasn't true, but you know what? You better think your European brethren, you Africans are close to. Africans geographically is closer to Europe. So who do you think their children come from? Who the hell you think they are? They're an offshoot of Africans. That's who Europeans are. You came to the West, Africa, and the West had a lovely relationship. And also Africans came here and beat who? Christopher Columbus by damn eons. Or even in modern times, centuries. So be careful who you call African and who you call American because you know nothing about history. You are know nothinger, as a matter of fact, because I don't have a phenotype of an African. I have the phenotype of an indigenous American Indian. It's not my fault. I don't hate on nobody. I don't act like I'm so better because I'm from here. Are you fucking serious? You're a weirdo. That's your goddamn problem. I don't belong to you, and that should be okay. And for you weirdo Siberians out there, how about this? You're not indigenous to the Americas. I am. You're indigenous to Russia, Siberia. You should think about your tones. It were even people darker than you indigenous there that you killed. You fucking mercenary. So therefore, let's get to the next whip moment. The legacy of theft. Go ahead, AE, take it away. The legacy of theft. Why do they champion the legacy of theft? I want to know.
Well, who are we talking about specifically when you say champion legacy? Are we talking about the Siberians, or are we talking about whites, or are we talking about the acceptance of these Siberian descendant natives who go ahead and move forward with accepting this idea that
I got a little further. I want you to go a little further because you're gonna have to go on this one. I'm talking the dark indigenous peoples that were indigenous to all lands on the planet and how there were leprosy was a real thing. They even spoke about it in their whole lexicon about leprosy and about how you people how about the hiding of the hand, huh? The hiding of the hand, the leprosy, the people, and they created these children. See, they exist today. So my point is the legacy of theft is always claiming that you're something that you're just not. Go ahead and elaborate, AE, take in the direction that you want. But you can't
well,
include them Siberians. They just as bad as the Jews, the
the
Jewish
whole
lineage of people on the planet.
the whole thing, right, is what at one time was simply a mode of survival, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just call it like it is, right? Passing for white was a
Was a
survival.
plus.
It was a survival tactic, right? It
Yeah.
was a survival tactic. That's whether it was done by blacks, whether it was done by Latinos who were able to straighten their hair and were able to pass, or even in some rare cases, Asians who could get away with it.
Southeast Asians
Everyone.
that came from like places like Fiji and Taiwan and like even what's the other with a lot of nappy headed black folks? You got Thailand. Thailand have a lot of dark skinned people too. See,
Right. See, and
I just
that's
want
what
to
I'm
add
saying.
that. You go ahead.
Those
You go. You got it.
for those who did that seriously was a tactic, right? And that went all the way up. We can see that all the way up into the mid 1900s, right? Where even those, you know, who were of that group, let's say blacks, who knew that there were other blacks that were passing, right? They didn't fault
Family
them,
members.
right? Even family members, right? They didn't
Yeah.
fault them, though, because they knew it was a tactic of survival. It was a way to have a better life. Let's just call it like it is. It was a way to have a better life. The issue was, though, when those who were able to pass, right, began to accept, right, they began to accept the ideology and the divisions that went along with classism, right? And
Oh
being
yeah.
able to,
Oh yeah.
and so then they would get with other people who could pass. And just like when we see in the Mississippi River Valley, right?
Mm.
Particularly in Louisiana, right? Where you have this whole Creole society, and they are marrying other Creoles because they have a spot in society that treats them better than their darker brother, cousin, auntie, sister, you know, relative. And so they kind of cling more into that Creole society than they do their own family lineage, right?
It's
And so
called likeness.
they seek out other Creoles, right? And all of that good stuff, right? And so in time then, as larger society continues to accept and push, you know, push lighter skin, and we need to make this perfectly clear. We're not just talking about the United States. You
Uh-uh.
know,
No
I've
sir.
read I've read research where even Castro, even Castro himself played into that colorism,
The
right?
world
In
did. Let's
that,
call it West Africa. The world. Let's get to it. The whole
right? That's
world
what I'm saying.
participated in. Yes.
I'm just using
Yeah.
Castro as an
Cake
example,
soap
right?
West Africa too. Yes sir.
They would for certain positions, particularly dealing with tourism and things of that nature, the lighter skinned people are put up front. They work the front of the hotels. They're the hostesses. They're the meet and greet people, right? Because everybody bought into that colorism.
That's a
And
fact.
that whole society was based on it, right?
Yes indeed.
And so everybody fed into it. Everyone did. Everyone fed into that psychology of treating people better because they're lighter, you know,
All
all
right.
of that good stuff.
So
So
okay. And I appreciate you for that. That was a great synopsis, my brother. I appreciate that of the legacy of theft. That was wonderful. So now I'm gonna give you a little just for you guys that really want to know. See the vestiges of the Negro, and I'm gonna show you the book I'm reading right now. This is the American History Lied. We Are Not Black. This Spelling and Misconceptions, Volume 1, written by Truth Ali. Has a lot of great good conceptions in this book that are very true. She made some Truth Ali, they very wonderful points, very thorough discoveries, and she also used a lot of references, from the vestiges of what Cortez did and things of that nature. Thorough research. Very good composition here. So, C, the vestiges of the Negro, Central America, before the arrival of Columbus. The New York Ages, page August 17th, 1935, Saturday, page 6. Aztec libraries destroyed in Mexico. Where Cortez conquered and destroyed the Aztec civilization, no effort was made to safeguard and protect the relics of the exceptional culture and glorious American epical civilization. The libraries of the learned Aztecs were people destroyed because they were not understood. It was foreign to the Spanish language and customs. It was the keeping epic Cardinal Ximenes, Ximenes, who had destroyed the wonderful libraries of North Africa. Cortez advice of the church associated in the scorner, Buddhism, and the serpent worship. We look back with sadness when we read the faith that befall of the library of Guatemalan convent in the abbots, and the removal of priceless manuscripts because they were not understood to accommodate newly printed books. The recorded history of these early people were sold as old page papers to druggists, storekeepers, street vendors to wrap their safe goods. Historians, back where it says, is nearly in all librarian Spanish American and could rule obtain. The Royal College of San Pablo under the Augustine Fathers of Mexico City, 4 truckloads of MSS papers and other printed books were disposed of by the merchants. The Mexican Indians of the 17th century seem not to have had any idea of the value or use of the preservation of the hieroglyphics and the divine um, heretic symbols. The handsome, solid structure chiseled with the significant years of stone and character that represented the calendar seemed to not have any merit in their minds. So when I tell you these things that you understand don't belong to the people that are presently there today. It's not theirs. You can learn about it today and you can act it out, but that doesn't mean it is you. Let's get to the next whip moment. All right. Loyalty to me attitude. Take it away, AE.
Well, that's the only way you are going to keep the manipulation going, right? Is that you develop some type of psychosis in which a person is going to feel inadequate if they are not tied to you in some kind of way, right? And let's call it like it is. It was primarily done through religion, right? That people created deities
Mm, 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 mm.
in their own, in their own likeness, such that you believe that they are, representatives of these deities, right?
Yep. Yep.
And let's
That's
call it
right.
like it is. That was the importance of Jesus being white, right? That was the whole importance of Jesus being white. That was a psychological manipulation in which it started from their own beliefs, though. They believe, in the earliest text that I have read and been privy to have a chance to read, they believed that they were in the likeness, right? That God was white and that they were God's people. When in actuality, psychology is the opposite, right? They created
Yes.
God in their own image, not God creating them in his image. You see what I'm saying? They created God
Yes.
in their image.
That's
And
fact.
so they use that. Religion has been, particularly the white Jesus, has been that, right? Angels being white. Everything white is considered positive. So no matter what white people do, you still have some psychological, right? Underneath there's some underlying lining psychological belief that what they're doing is right and that they're still righteousness, and you still feel tied to them, right?
Yeah.
And
I
so
got this.
even today, even today we see that when we see not just black people, we see Latino people, even see Asian people, all different types of people of color who are, they're adamant at sometimes about not offending white people. You know, don't talk about race, don't talk about this, don't offend them. They, even if they want to ban books so that their children don't find out what they did, or because it upsets them, they don't want to upset their children with the truth. You know, People go
Yeah.
along with it. They don't want to. There's that underlying psychological effect. And I'm gonna give you a real good example, right? When I was at
Mhm.
IU, when I was at Indiana, right? There was a brother one time that told me, because at in Bloomington, Indiana, and pretty much in Indiana, it was 10 to
Mhm.
1, right? 10 white people for every minority, not just blacks, every minority. So we talking about 10 white people, one black, 10 more white people, one Asian, 10 more white people,
Mm.
one Latino. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he told me once that I didn't smile enough and that I didn't make white people feel comfortable. And I'm like, we not here to make them feel, what the world? You know? See, but that's that psychological thing, right? That we we have bought into their
Mm.
comfortability, right?
Mm.
That's one of the practical things that have come out of that, having people tied to you that you don't even want to offend them, even though they have done the most offensive things.
Shit. Yeah. Let me add to that. Let me. I got something for that shit. You so on point. I gotta read something that's kind of parallel to what you're saying, real quick. In all other ancient cosmologies, we find a creator battling with some form of cosmic monster. Out of whose body the world was formed. Stosis with Tiamat, Odin with Ymir, and Reveda. Reveda. I'm sorry, gods, Parshus, etc. This, we say, is pagan ignorance in Genesis and Hebrew superior wisdom. This, for instance, where the Babylonian poet saw only in action to defend forces of nature, Hebrew writers and saw the working of God. And that insight was inspiration. The right, the natural creation became supernatural, and that inspiration, superstition. The result was 2,500 years of benighted worship instead of welfare. This is the error and the evil this book befasted upon Western man only now are we beginning to suspect it. You see what I'm saying? We just now beginning to, after 2,500 years, we just now saying, wait a minute, the ooga booga, something wrong. It's bullshit.
No,
But anyway,
some
okay.
of us are just now willing to speak up. That's what it's just like what you were just saying, right? It's that being manipulated to the point that you want to be so tied to them that you don't want to offend them, even though you know the truth. You don't want to quote unquote offend them because they have you in this psychological hole where you feel
Yeah.
like you're tied to them. You have to get along to go along, right? You gotta smile. You gotta whatever, make them feel comfortable.
Okay. Let me add to that a little bit more then. By the time this account was written, the Hebrews had lost all knowledge of Caucasus and creation in Genesis 1, and in the result, the writings much older than this we find in Yahweh, the battling of the Levant and the dragon and the serpent in Isaiah, and Psalms 74, reading thus, thou breast the head of the Levant in the pieces and the gravest, him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness, and the apocryphal Bible of Enoch reading, in the day shall be distributed the food, two monsters, feminine monster, whose name is Leviathan, dwelling in the depths of the sea, above the springs of the waters, the male monster, whose name Behemoth. In Job 41:10, God, the Leviathan, air are as one. None is so fierce that dare stare him. Leviathan up, who then is able to stand before me. So that's punking the hell out of everybody. Who that sound like to you?
The master manipulator.
Everybody.
Yeah, that's what the master manipulator is able to do.
Just the punk there. Okay, we got to get to the next moment, bro. This is this is great. But we got to get through the show. All right. All right. So we got oh man, this is next what moment? Me first. No, we did that. The need to never deal fair. Take it away, AE.
Well, that's real simple, right? The need to never deal fair because you want to keep the advantages, right? You let's just call it like it is. When you know that someone can outwork you, when you know that if it's a level playing field, you won't be able to keep up, then no, you don't want anything fair. You know, Europe is never going to fairly pay African nations for their natural resources. Because A, if that were the case, then they wouldn't be able to thrive and have the things that they have. And B, African nations would begin to build up their own infrastructure. And you can't have them building up their own infrastructure because you need to be able to dig out all of their natural resources. So if they're laying gas lines and they're building all of these more modernized cities with electric and solar power and all of these things, right? All of these major manufacturing capabilities, then you can't dig up their land, right? You can't dig those natural resources. You can't set their forest on fire so that you can burn out the ground so that you can dig underneath and get those natural resources you want, right? You can't continue to give them where you can't, period. Talking about continue, excuse me. You can't give them a fair and equitable relationship in which you are getting these natural resources, because then they would begin to utilize those natural resources to their own advantage. They would begin to manufacture those natural resources for their own usage instead of you taking it from them and not paying them anything to take it from them, and then turn around and try to sell them the finished product that you made after you took their natural resource to make them. See, because common sense say you would start doing it yourself. So that's the whole solid example there on why you are not going to deal with people fairly. Because if you deal with people fairly, then you don't get the advantages, you don't get the standard in which you would like. Right. You know, because if we're going to make things equitable for everybody, that means some people can't live in an extravagant lifestyle. Everybody has to live down here but it's all even, and you're not going to do that.
Right. So let me add a little bit to that right there. Put a little paint where it ain't. But you have covered such major ground with that. Let's just add another scenario with that, where you already know, like, black people invented everything on the planet. Our DNA upholds the health and wealth of rich people. Our actual presence on the planet is perplexed how they want to get rid of the very people they can't even exist without genetically. So if there's a sickness, they have come up with every type of alternative type of situation, knowing that the planet in a natural form has a solution. Why do you need a pharmaceutical drug? Why can't you have Why can't you? Because, but the thing is these are not things that they don't know. Why can't you popularize how to grow herbs and plants into your home, and popularize people taking care of themselves in their communities and things like that? But they don't sell those type of ideologies. They sell shit like this. Uh, get on this stock market, make more money, provide for yourself, not knowing that even when people fail out that, they get desperate enough to know how to cheat the system, and they don't give a shit about nobody else's money but the money they want to take from people. So this is a whole perplexed situation, and it's also what you put in your body. All of these things go together. You got something to add, AE?
No, you
Oh,
said
okay. I thought you.
desperate.
Yeah,
They're not desperate. They just greedy.
they greedy. You damn right. They get greedy, and but in their mind, they were formulated, or they were categorized. I was desperate when they get caught. I was desperate. I didn't. No, you a greedy low life, and you don't concern yourself with no one but you. That's the fact. We got to get to the next what moment, because we're gonna cover this. AE, check it out. Um, always fine. This is the next what moment, y'all. AE, you finna blast off anyway on this, because you taking it first tonight. You taking it. You taking it. You the one that's you punching them in the mouth first. Okay, that's your job. Bow in the mouth first. Okay. Always find a way out of a deal to escape accountability and acceptance. I'll repeat
All
it
right.
for you. Give it one more time. Always finding a way out of a deal to escape accountability or acceptance.
As always, I mean, um, what do we want to use as our primary example there? Shoot, I would say our primary example there is the legal system, right? Let's use that
Oh,
one, right?
absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
not just because I'm not gonna say it's just white. It's not just a color thing. It's not just white people. It's a classist thing, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
People,
Yes, it is.
you know, the system is such, right, that even economically, right, you can manipulate the system such that breaking, even breaking the law, still presents a better economic scenario for you. In other words, if you
That's a fact.
broke the law, right, and you continue to break the law, according to this law, there's only a fine, right?
Yeah.
There's only a fine for child labor.
Associated with it.
There's only a fine for child labor in certain states. There's only a fine for illegal using illegal immigrants. There's only a fine. So you continue to do these things. You work people in these horrible conditions. You work them 90 hours, over 12 hours a day, and all of these different things, working these sweatshops and everything else. Because when you get caught, and that's if you get caught, the money that you make is taking care of the fine that you would get. So it still becomes
It suffices.
right. It still becomes just a regular tactic, right? I'm gonna
Mhm.
keep doing this because
Status quo.
even if I do, the maximum is a $35,000 fine. That's the maximum. Shoot, I make 30. I'll have that 35,000 in 6 weeks. I got if I can run this thing for a year, I got the $35,000 fine in 6 weeks. Stack that
Let me add to
35,000
that.
there.
Let,
Just in
let me
case. We'll
add to
put that
that.
as insurance. We just call that
You
insurance.
I can let's call that. If I'm a senator and if I know you're doing that, I'm not go. I'm gonna start expecting that $35,000 because I want to cut off that fine. You know what I'm saying? I expect you to cheat and do what you're doing a little bit, because I'm gonna start to expect a cut off that 35K, if not the whole thing, if depending on how greedy I am now. So let's get to the next one moment. This is good because you about to you. This is great. Check it out. This next what moment. No need to grow. I can cheat.
Well, I mean,
Take it away.
that's the society we created, not just in this country, but I mean throughout the world, right? When if it's all work, it leads right back to what we just discussed, right? If I can cheat and get the same results, then I'm gonna go with the end justifies the means, right? So even if I get caught and I got to pay a fine or I got to this, I got to that, is it worth it? Yeah, okay, it's worth it. Then I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat. You know, and that is, that whole again, that idea of the end justifying the means. And people have accepted that, because let's call it like it is. Too many things change. The only thing and the hardest thing in a person to change is their belief system. So if you can tap into a person's system, then you can control them, right?
Damn right.
But everything else can change, and you have to be aware of that, right? Your value system can change, right? You can you could tell yourself that you will never spend $100.
A
$100 is
day.
a limit for a shirt, but then you hit the lottery next month. $100 is nothing
Thousands.
for a shirt now. You see, so value systems can change. Um, your morals, your ethics, all of those things change easily.
Mm,
The
mm,
belief
mm.
system is the only one that's the hardest to change. But all of those other ones can change. So if they're that easy manipulated and changed, then people are going to accept, and they're more apt to accept things that they may not have 2 years ago.
Let me add.
So they'll 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 go with the flow in terms
Yeah.
of cheating and anything else, because the
Let me
end would
add to
just.
that. Let me add to that one. See, I have this. I have. I tell people the truth about that word belief. It's very dangerous. I don't think they understand what they say. Belief, lie is in the middle of the word. Be lie to my Eve. It's the gift of a lie. So I tell people you should know more things in your life that you can verify and can confirm. Because when you believe, you set yourself up for everything failure, disappointment, because it's a belief. This shit ain't real anyway. So the thing is, when you really want to know something, the reason why people want to set the boundary or set the start at belief is because they say at least I can get your ass in hope. And then I can give you a chance to do one thing too. I can give you the ability to what you call cope. I can build in multiple coping mechanisms to keep you believing, never knowing, and always disturbed. So The next whoop moment is altering the deal instead of fulfilling it. Now I just set A up real good for this one because I just talked about coping mechanism, and so he finna do some real damage. So I'll repeat it again for AE because he about to go ham on this. This is the last whip moment. So AE about to go ham. Altering the deal instead of fulfilling the deal. Take it away, AE.
Well, that all goes back to continuing to make sure that you have the clear advantages, right? Making sure that you continue to maintain the lifestyle, the comfortability, and everything else that you have in your life. So if things occur naturally in life that um, brings about a situation where you must change the uh, the current deal, then you will, right? And so that's the
Yeah.
whole thing about it, right? In this country, a law really is only good as it is enforced, right? So you can change the law as you see fit, just like that for any advantage. You know, right now, the clearest one, I'm getting one historically and then one now, right? Historically, you know, and I'm not going to even use one for black people because I don't want people to think it's all about black people and we're the only ones that have been affected by it. Let's
Right.
talk about the quote unquote reservations, right? They get all kind of deals, but as soon as something is found on that reservation, as soon as they find oil, as soon as they find the natural resources, here come a new deal. And they got to move now. You got to move that reservation. No, we're gonna put you over here now. No, no, no. You can't have this land. We're gonna go, well, forget what we said 20 years ago. You got to go. You see? And so one for today, right, is gerrymandering, right? Republicans cannot win because there are not enough Republicans to win, right? Not to win an election fairly. So they
Another.
create gerrymandering, right? In which they can
And
manipulate the vote.
redistricting.
Right. They
Redistricting.
redistrict, do this gerrymandering so that they can manipulate the voting such that they can split up the advantages that Democrats
Or
have.
garnered and warranted for local towns and communities. Those are
Right.
facts.
But gerrymandering allows them, and see, that's the whole thing that we go back to how it happens. It happens because a law is only good as it is enforced. So they change all of these laws. It's not, it has nothing to do with morals, nothing to do with ethics. We're talking
It's
about
control.
control. Plain and simple. It's control. All
That's
types of
it.
laws. We see all types of laws that have been based on control, you know,
All
just
right.
all types.
Just to add to that.
So we changed the
Oh,
rules.
Uncle, go
The
ahead, Uncle. Go ahead. You
rules
got it.
have been changed because the present situation does not allow them to either get more of an advantage or keep an advantage.
That's right. That's right. So check it out. Just want to add a little bit to that last what moment altering the deal instead of fulfilling it. See, I can't even add to the greatness of what and how AE has explained that particular situation because it would be beating a dead horse. What I can tell you is the desire to benefit from a live show is a real ordeal. See, we were forced in a position from this overlay culture that we live in a dominant society, to participate in a heavy parade of masquerading lies. So when we decide that well, we want to get back to the truth, you come holler at Dr. AE and I, and we're gonna give you just that. So that's the show tonight. I hope you have enjoyed us. I hope you have enjoyed my brother being back. I salute you, bro. Glad to have you back on the show. We cooked tonight so well. And I just want to know if you got a few more words for the people tonight before we get up out of here.
Just that all of these discussions that we've had tonight really comes down to this whole idea of people wanting to have the easiest and most advantageous life. And morals and ethics don't have anything to do with it once they have decided that this ease of life is equated with their survival. You see what I'm saying? Once
Ooh,
they have
that's a
equated
cold
it
blooded.
with
That's
survival, there's nothing they won't do,
right.
from enslavement to sharecropping to Jim Crow to reservation removal to all of the Chinese exclusion, all of these things are created because they have equated. And now the key word and the buzzword is now, quote unquote, freedom. They say you infringing on my freedom. Your freedom, what does your freedom have to do with you creating these economic advantages? What does your freedom have to do with that? So I'm
You
gonna leave
heard
it
it,
at
ladies
that.
and gentlemen.
You go ahead, brother.
You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it from the doctor's mouth. Specifically, plain, uncut, and clear. Listen to me. Never allow any person to overlay you specifically. We all exist in overlay cultures. We all have paid the price. But the one thing you can do is pay yourself for it by educating yourself, keeping yourself upbeat, and giving yourself a full fledged knowledge and history makeover mentally. That's your right, it's your just, it's your free will. And once again, you already know what I do because that's the end of the show tonight. So, guess what? This is my favorite part. And it's the one thing that you should get out of this show if you ain't got it before. Check it out. Say it with me, y'all. Come on. The will is yours. Yeah, you know what it is. We're gonna be back tomorrow because me and A gonna put on for some more show. Anyway, I'm glad to have my brother back. That's the show tonight. Y'all take care. Be easy. Go ahead and hit him with it, AE.
God bless. One love.
All right. Holla at y'all. Peace.